Hello, how are we doing? So, we have Nefer here, and I want to talk about her. Nefer, there's a lot of talk about how strong she is, how useful she is without Llama, how good she is to play, how does she compare to other strong DPSs, and all these other questions. Um, so primarily from my standpoint, um, Nefer is a very good unit from what I've seen and from what I've done myself in terms of calculations and my experience. Nefer is uh is the third best DPS in the game. Um, her damage is a little bit higher than Varessa. She is lower than Mavic and Skirk, but she is up there. Uh, obviously with Llama. If that doesn't matter to you, she just remember she is very strong. Like if you don't care about the DPS numbers and comparisons and whatever, she's good. She's a good character. If you She's a good character. There's some caveats to that. I'm gonna talk about those later. But uh, if we want to start talking about her, I think the primary thing we have to talk about is what element she is. Her her weapons, her kit, her the main source of damage that she does, and her teams and whatever. So let's start with what she is uh, at her foundation. Nefer is a Dendro main DPS. She is a true hyper carry. When I say true hyper carry, I mean characters that do more than 90% of the team's DPS. Um, I would say that the characters that are true hyper carries in the game right now are Mawika in her melt teams and in most of her other teams, where she does around from 92 to 97% of the team's DPS. And Nefer. Nefer also does from around 92 to 95% of the team's DPS. There's also Molani, who on some of her teams does do more than 90% of the team's DPS. In other teams, in most of her normal teams, she does less than 90% of the team's DPS. From that, the biggest thing that we can gain from that is basically that she has uh, she does obviously the most amount of damage in her teams, and you will want to build characters around her that support her damage, rather than trying to build them to do more damage themselves. Um, if you look at uh, Nefer's power level, let's say in terms of her, like when I say power levels, I mean how does she compare to Mawika? How does she compare to Skirk? How does she compare to Varessa? How does she compare to Flint? As I already said, she's the third best DPS in the game. Now, what does that mean? Um, like exactly, like how does it differentiate, right? Basically, I will say that Mawika and Skirk are the type of DPSs that can not only do the hardest content in the game that massively or marginally shields them. So for Skirk, it's like the Cryo Automaton boss. If you remember on on the first Stygian onslaught on 5.7, there was the cryo boss, which was heavily focused on making your skirt do better damage, basically, and it would basically prohibit any other elemental DPSs uh, from doing a lot of damage to it. There were some clears with Arlequinos and Mawikas and stuff, but aside from that, it was aside from like those specific accounts uh, that were able to do it, it was mainly focused for Skirk. For Mawika, there isn't one that comes to mind if you talk about like shill bosses. If she reruns later, obviously we're gonna have a boss that is going to be designed to make her strong. But because she was released around 3 or 4 patches before Stygian Onslaught came out, she doesn't have a shill boss. But basically, what I'm trying to say is Mawika and Skirk are the characters that can not only do bosses that they can like do normally or that shills them, but they can also do bosses and content that allows them that does not explicitly or even implicitly support their kits, but they're strong enough in terms of the numbers that they can um, use their kits and use their normal teams to break through. I'll have to say one thing though, that is Stygian Onslaught is getting shillier and shillier, as you can say these days. It's getting harder and harder, even with Mawika and Skirk, to consistently do bosses that are not designed for them just by brute forcing. It's getting harder, but obviously it depends. Like there's some new leaks about the new Stygian Onslaught that is supposed to be much more easier, and that is supposed to give both Mawika and Skirk a decent team, decent opponent to work with. But basically, Nefer is below them. Now, what does that mean exactly? For me, what it means is she has enough DPS, especially in Abyss teams, to do the bosses in Stygian Onslaught, like Mawika and Skirk, where she is not the primary one that is being shielded, that is being supported or inflated. Obviously, she can do the bosses that she has been shielded for. She is strong, obviously, very strong enough for that. But she is not that strong that like if there is a boss that kind of counters her, it'll be much more difficult than Skirk or Mawika, especially because Mawika also has a lot of teams that she can play with, like Overload, like Vape, and Skirk has reactions like Freeze and things like that that can allow them to kind of use their advantages in numbers and their special mechanics to do the bosses. But um, Nefer is in a stage like Varessa where she can do her content very easily, and she can also do content that is not shield for her entirely. She can do them with high enough investments in terms of like free to play, but still like high artifact investments and high support investments and things like that. Now, maybe like if I have to say, Nefer is the third, then Varissa, and then finally we have Flint in the top five. So if I had to differentiate between Nefer and Flint, in terms of like the definition that I gave about Stygian Onslaught bosses, Flint is basically a character that can do his shield boss, which was this the previous Stygian Onslaught rotation that had the Fatui boss, um, the 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 Fatui boss that had the Electrocharge or Lunar Charge shield. Um, That boss could easily be done by Flynn's, um, but he will struggle a lot more than Nefer or Baressa, um, in terms of um, defeating bosses that are not shield too much towards him. I mean, you could say that he's strong enough to brute force, um, but I think Nefer is certainly better than him though, like in terms of brute forcing, because she just does more damage than him, um, like by a lot. And even though you have Inefa in Flynn's team, uh, the uh, amount of buffs that Nefer receives in her teams, uh, with Llama just makes her damage so much higher that it does like it does gap both Lynn's and Ineffa's damage together. So, you know, and if you go higher investment in terms of signature or constellations, that's even higher. So yeah, in terms of power level, she's very strong. There is a caveat to that, which is Llama, but I'm gonna talk about that later. So, we are done with power levels, and I want to talk about her teammates uh, and possible alternatives and things like that for an effort. So if we go to
Why does
character
Ashford?
archives, I would say. So you can see my team here. This account is pretty new. It I made this account around a year ago, but I only started really focusing on it around 3 months ago, I believe. It was during the second half of 5.7. So the amount of characters in this banner are a lot lower.
Up on the
I'll
count,
just show
please.
you the character
You're
archives.
welcome, Mark.
So let's go step by step and look at Nefer and her team. Right? So Nefer is a Lunar Bloom character. Um, she's a Dendro DPS, and she's primarily scales off of Elemental Mastery. Uh, and she's not like Alhaitham's Elemental Mastery scaling, because she doesn't have dual scaling. She has only one scaling, which is EM. If you look at her talents, look at her skill attributes, all of the Lunar Bloom damage is primarily Elemental Mastery stuff, right? So most of her damage comes from Elemental Mastery, skills off of Elemental Mastery. I believe she's the only true EM scaler, main DPS in the game, like true EM scaler. Like she doesn't scale off anything except EM, and that makes her a bit special in terms of her teammate options. But let's go with her team, right? As you may have known, as everyone will tell you, Llama is her best in slot support at as of this point in the game. This is when Nefer came out initially, so Llama at this point is the best in slot support. The reasons why she is so good is because of a couple of things. First, she is Dendro. So she's Dendro, which means you have Dendro resonance immediately. Second reason is she's also a Notcry. So the Ascendant Gleam effects from Nefer's kit is going to be activated when you have Loma. Thirdly, if you look at her kit, you look at her skill, you have the off-field dendro that happens when Nefer uses her skill. Its damage is not that useful. although it does do like around 2 to 4,000 damage per tick. Um, its duration is enough to cover the entirety of Nefer's rotation. Uh, but the main thing that this skill is doing is the elemental res decrease. The elemental res decrease is pretty big. It looks like 2.5 right now, but this is skill 1. If you look at my llama,
Science, of course.
um, her talents, I have 10. I have crowned both her skill and her burst. Her skill has elemental res decrease of 25%. It's pretty big, right? That's one big thing. That's like the third big thing, I guess. First is she's Dendro resonance. Second, she's a Notcry, so Notcry resonance. Third, her skill decreases the elemental resistance of Dendro and Hydro. For Nefer's case, it's Dendro. For other like Noble's case, it's Hydro. But uh, we are talking about Nefer, so yeah, she reduces the resistance resistance of dendro damage by 25%. Obviously, in her artifacts, we're going to talk about artifacts later for all of her team members. But there's always going to be a 30% or deep wood set on one of your team members, and it'll cause uh the dendro res to decrease by 30%, which is so this combined the dendro res from Deepwood combined with her talents her talents elemental res decrease will cause the res shred to be around 55%, which is a pretty big deal. That's like the third thing that she provides to Nefer. The fourth and the biggest thing that she provides to Nefer is she provides a lunar bloom damage increase of 400% of her elemental mastery um, when she does her burst. Now remember, Llama is a EM scaler as well, like a pretty big EM scaler. So usually when you build her, she will have three, like all her sands, her circlet, and her sands, her sands, goblet, and circlet all have EM as their main pieces. So just remember that this is going to be massive. This 400% is going to be pretty big. 400% of elemental mastery is going to be pretty big. And also remember that these are 18 stacks of this Lunar Bloom damage increase. And remember that Nefer in her rotation does 6 charge attacks, and each charge attack does 3 instances of Lunar Bloom damage. So when you do 6 charge attacks with 3 instances of Lunar Bloom damage each, you have 18 instances of Lunar Bloom damage, which all get buffed with her Elemental Burst. And this Elemental Burst is a massive deal. It increases the damage of Nefer by a lot. If you do a calculation, like this specific thing is like doing like 300 to 400,000 DPR in Nefer's teams, depending on your crit and everything. But this provides a lot of value to Nefer. That's the fourth thing that Llama provides for Nefer. The fifth thing that Llama provides to Nefer is this. So Moonsign, Ascendant Gleam, all nearby party members, Lunar Bloom, damage, crit rate, and crit damage increases by 20%. So basically, Llama is giving around 40 crit value to Nefer. She makes it easier for you to build Nefer because she provides 10% crit rate. She also provides 20% crit damage, which uh, gets added to your crit damage normally and allows you to do more damage basically. So this is another amazing thing that Llama provides NEFER. Do remember that this is Moon Sign Ascendant Gleam, which is basically when two non-cry characters are in a team, you have Ascendant Gleam. Well, if you have Llama and NEFER, those are both Ascendant Gleams, so this effect basically always procs. So you're fine with this. Like you don't have to do anything for this. Other things don't matter, but also remember that when Llama has her skill, when Llama's skill is hitting opponents, it has a chance to generate particles, dendro particles, and when NEFER is on the field, when you do that, uh, NEFER can get her burst faster, which will allow you to do periodic bursts. But that is something that is not that big of a deal compared to like her burst or her skill or her passives. So that's Llama, right? Llama is the
Emotions are like a
is
rate
is the
that surges through
is the
line.
best second slot, best in slot character for NEFER as of this point. When you lose her, you lose the damage that NEFER does by a lot. That, but by the way, that does not mean that NEFER is like bad now. You have different options. I'm going to talk about those options later, but you have those options. And depending on what game mode, what game mode you want to play in, like if you want to do Stygian Onslaught, a menacing difficulty, which is difficulty 4, or if you want to do Spiral Abyss, then having not having Llama really doesn't matter, especially when Llama is only increasing your damage and she's not providing anything like game changing in the sense that she's not providing healing in her base kit. Of course, C1 Llama does provide healing, but um, Llama doesn't provide any game changing, like a rotation changing stuff for NEFER. So just remember that she's there for maximizing Nefer's damage. But if you have Llama, use it on Nefer. Um, if you have Nefer and Llama, just use both of them together. There's no reason to use unless you really want to play Nefer um like alone, like without Llama, then just play her with Llama, and she's gonna be pretty good. Okay, the next one that we need is I know well the Hydra slot. The Hydra slot is a little bit interesting. I know is considered the best in slot for Nefer's teams. Um, I know obviously Hydro Claymore. She does off-field Hydro. Her constellations, if you look at her constellation, her C1 buffs EM, her C6 buffs Lunar Bloom damage by like 35% if you put her in Nefer's teams. And yeah, um, and she's an off-fielder, so the set that you give her is going to be instructor or like we're going to talk about Nefer's team's set options, but Aino is a good option here. I've heard people say that they don't like Aino because the off-field hydro application that she does is around a circle, and there is one specific opponent in Spiral Abyss right now, the Lightkeeper, who moves around a lot. So it makes it a little bit more difficult for Aino to do enough off-field hydro application for her to generate enough verdant dues for NEFER to do her do her charge attacks. One thing to remember, I'm just talking about verdant dues right now, but you don't have to worry about those too much, in the sense that like don't worry about the definitions. Like yeah, verdant dues are like absolutely important in NEFER teams, but just remember you have to have off-field hydro support, off-field hydro character. Like I know's the best, but like you can choose Farina, you can choose Sing Cho, uh, you can do Yelan, uh, but Yelan cannot do off-field hydro application without your on-field character doing normal attacks, which Nefer does not want to do. Xingqiu is different because he does have the orbitals from his skill, um, which allows him to do his skill and his burst every other rotation, which allows him to be a decent hydro applier in your teams. Furina obviously does a lot of damage, uh, and and she does a lot of damage. She does off-field hydro, and it's not based on circle impact. Her hydro application is pretty good, and it's not reliant on normal attacks or on circle impact, so she's pretty good. She also does good damage, so that's another plus for her. Just remember that your burst will do nothing because Lunar Bloom damage does not increase by normal damage percent, and uh, Lunar Bloom damage is the vast majority of Nefer's damage. So basically, what you're doing when you do Furina's burst is that you're only increasing the normal Dendro damage of Nefer, which is a lot less than her Lunar Bloom damage. Although, when Nefer uses her burst, which is normal Dendro damage, this can be useful, but just remember, um, uh, you don't really want to do burst for Furina. You can do it like once every other rotation, but um, just to like buff the burst damage of Nefer, but don't. It's not going to be that big anyway, so don't rely on this too much. Just don't use it. If you, yeah, just don't use it, right? And one more thing to talk about is non-cry resonance, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. But as Furina scales off HP, her damage scales off HP, and non-cry resonance damage percent, lunar damage percent scales with, for Hydro character scales with HP. So what I'm referring to is right here. If you look at party setup, you have the new moon's embrace things. Hydro increases damage by 0.6% for every 1000 max HP. Just remember that Furina can do a lot of this. It can add a lot of lunar damage percent to Nefer, which is going to increase the damage of your charge attacks and your lunar booms, which are the most important ones. Um, yep. Let's look at more characters. So those three are the biggest options. Well, those two. Like Purina, Sincho, um, Kokomi is a good one, and she applies off-field hydro, and she provides you with healing, which is going to be important. I'm going to talk about healing later. I don't know. Obviously, Nulit, no. Karina, yeah, that's a big one. Sejuin, not really. Dahlia, not really. So you basically have two or three options, but just remember you want a good off-field Hydra applicator, um, and you want the cooldowns to line up preferably, because Nefer does less than 18-second rotations, so it's a little bit difficult to fit in a lot of characters which have shorter bursts, which have longer cooldowns, obviously. But if you don't have, like, let's say you don't have Aina, use your Furina. Where's Furina? Oh, you can also use Candace C6, but it has to be C6. But yeah, Furina, you can use Furina, you can use Xingqiu, you can use obviously Candace and Kokomi. If you have those options, just use them. Um, it is going to be worse than C6, I know, or even maybe worse than C1, I know, or maybe similar to C1, I know. Let me rephrase. C0, I know, is probably similar to Furina and Xingqiu and stuff, but C6, I know, is better than them, but C1, I know, is very similar level to them. So just remember that. If you have C6, I know, which can happen if you did go for Flints and went for Nefer. Um, if you have C6 Sino, C6 Sino is pretty good for Nefer. Okay, let's talk about the last lot. Oh, by the way, before we talk about the last lot, let's talk about Llama's replacement. Llama, as I said, gives a lot of buffs to Nefer. Um, and to replace her, you need a good character. Someone like Nahida works because Nahida gives a lot of elemental mastery buffs. Someone like if you really are like a new player who has no llama, then like someone like Kale or like a Dendro main character. Where is it then? DMC. I don't see it. Just Dendro main character or Kale or Emily maybe. Like if you have Emily. Although, well, maybe not Emily, honestly. You don't really want burning in your teams. But like Nahida is a big one, like a really big one is Nahida. If you have Nahida, use her. Like just use her in Nefer team. Even if you have Llama, use Nahida as well as your fourth slot. But if you don't have Llama, then Nahida is your best option. Especially if you have C2 Nahida, which gives your Lunar Bloom is increased by 10 and 20%. If you, but do remember, this is going to be worse than having Lama in the team. Um, the fourth slot usually the fourth slot is for buffs or characters that give you buffs, a lot of buffs. In Nefer's case, there are not a lot of characters that give a lot of good buffs to Nefer at this point. Maybe in the future there's going to be ones like Columbina or something, but right now there is not. So if you look at the characters, a good four slot would be Inefa. A good four slot would be someone like let me see, Nilu. Good for well, Nilu can also be like a replace Ino, but she's not gonna be in your four slot. She's gonna be in your Ino slot. Someone like Cookie. Cookie's a big one. Yai Miko. She can do it. Let me see. Uh, Sucrose is a good one. Sucrose gives you a lot of EM. Visual is a good one, but she doesn't provide you
I
with
created another universe.
sustain. Inefa is a really good one because if you have Inefa and I know, then you can not only give a shield to Nefer, you can also uh, proc some lunar charge, and Inefa can do some resonance stuff like aggravate or spread or something. So that's pretty good. But if you have Inefa and if you have Llama and you also have Nefer, it's very unlikely. I have them because I don't have any other characters. This was the result of my 3 months of farming. So most people won't have this. So, and if you have Inefa and Flints, then just pair them together, and rather than having Inefa with Nefer, just to choose someone like Cookie who gives you a lot of healing, and um, which can carry which can carry weapons like sapwood and can carry artifact sets like serenade. Now, if you want to talk about the artifacts, Nefer's always going to be on. Nefer's always going to be on the Sky set, the new Nordprice main DPS set. Llama is going to be on Deepwood primarily. You can put Llama in Serenade. There's no problems with that. The biggest thing is you want Serenade is lower priority than Deepwood in terms of the buffs it provides, and you want Deepwood to be on characters that have good uptimes on their elemental skill. So Llama is the best option for that. Cookie can easily proc for Serenade. She can easily provide the boss to Nefer. And because she's the only non-Notcry character, she does need the 5-star artifact level increases in her attack and HP for her to provide good healing and provide good Lunar Bloom percentage to Nefer. Talk about I know her weapon. You would presumably want to have a fab weapon because Llama wants energy. Aino herself wants energy. Nefer doesn't mind energy, but she doesn't really need it. But Llama and Aino do want energy, so you want a fast sword. Um, in terms of artifacts, Instructor is the best one. Instructor just provides um, so much. I mean, Instructor provides you with EM. Um, this doesn't proc off field, but it provides you with EM, so it's pretty good. Basically, what you want to have is you want to have Nefer on Sky, Llama, Llama, the three character options beside Nefer should all have at least there should be at least one Deepwood, one Serenade, and one Instructor. That's all there is to it. It's better to put Deepwood on Llama, put Instructor on Aino, and put Serenade on Cookie, but you can mix and match. It doesn't really matter. It does matter a little bit. Maybe the uptimes of some buffs do expire, but usually I will say that uh, in broad strokes terms, Llama, Cookie, and Aino will have these three sets. Okay, we talked about the team. We talked about the replacements. Let's talk about her constellation and her dash cancels. Well, let's start with her constellations. And let's talk about her signature weapon and her weapon in general. If you look at Aina's constellation, you have C1. C1 basically increases her motion value of her of her main source of damage by 60%. This is around 25 to 30% increase to her personal damage. C2 will give you 200 more EM and will give you 5 more stacks instead of 3 stacks for the Veil of Falsehoods, basically increasing your true multiplier. If you look at her talents, uh, this is the one, Veil of Falsehood, that's being, you'll increase your damage by 8% multiplicatively. If it's 5 more, then it's going to be 1.4 instead of 1.24, which is also pretty good. It'll increase your damage by around 10 to 15%. It's not that big of a deal compared to C1. Or let's talk about her weapon, R1. Her weapon is one of the best weapons for her, and one of the best stat sticks for non-damage scalers for Catalyst people. Um, um, it gives her 8% crit rate, 80 EM, and 24% crit damage, in addition to 88.2% crit damage from the base. Just remember for NEFER, because this is her signature set, both of these will proc, so it'll increase by 50%. So the EM is going to be 120, and the crit damage is going to be 36% for NEFER. All in all, this provides NEFER with 140% crit value and 120 EM, which is like insane in terms of a weapon, signature weapon. This also provides her with like 25 to 30% of increase in terms of team DPS. Just remember though, you don't need her weapon or her constellation. She is plenty strong without those. Let's talk about how she feels. This is a complicated topic. The reason why this is so complicated is because NEFER does not have a good sustain option in her teams. What do I mean by that? Basically, what I'm trying to say is, um, um, basically what I'm trying to say is, you have Llama in your team, Aino in your team, both of which do not provide any defensive utility. Llama doesn't provide any defensive utility until you get C1, which in general I would not recommend you to do. If you don't care about Llama, if you only have her for meta reasons, or like she's supportive of your best character, then you can go for her. But I would say in general, this is worse than NEFER C1 or NEFER's R1. So just focus on those if you don't really care about like the characters and stuff. But Llama does not provide you with healing and any defensive utility. Aino doesn't do any of that. The only one that can do it is the 4th slot. And there are a couple of options. Obviously, you have, let's look at character archives. Some sustain options on the 4th slot is NEFER is a good one. You have maybe Siege Wing, I don't know. I haven't played with Siege Wing. Maybe Kirara, like Kirara can provide a shield, a Dendro shield. Yao Yao is probably pretty good as well. Nahida, prototype Amber Nahida is pretty good. Kuki obviously is she heals and she is electro, so she's pretty good. If you look through, Diana is pretty good. She also provides you with a shield and with a healing circle. which also increases your EM by 200. So she's also a good option for you in your last slot. Um, like maybe Xingqiu a little bit with his orbitals, but yeah. But basically it's Inefa is a good one, Cookie is a good one, Nahida per time Amber is a good one. Yeah, maybe a little bit decent, not that good. Um, Xingqiu is a decent one, and yeah, that's the sustain options for Nefer. In terms of gameplay, how does sustain relate to Nefer? Nefer is a melee character which doesn't have a shield, so she feels a little bit squishy in terms of her her um, her teams and her output. But if you do proper cancels and proper dashes, and if you have someone like Cookie, it's gonna be fine. But not a lot of people won't have that, and they are going to be disappointed with how squishy she is. I'm just gonna say your concerns are valid. She is squishy. She doesn't have a lot of teammates who give her a lot of sustain buffs. So it is what it is. Just choose a character like Cookie or someone that just gives you healing and lowers the rotation times and stuff. But basically, that's basically where we come down to in terms of teams. Do remember, this is all of this depends on what type of endgame content you're trying to do. If you're trying to do Stygian, like Dire or like Fearless, non-shield Fearless for Nefer, you would probably want Llama, you would probably want Aina, you probably want Cookie or Nahida or someone. Um, or if you're just planning on playing her and not really doing too much in terms of um doing too much uh, in terms of end game stuff, then you can obviously um, go to Cookie or like you can mix and match team members. You can get rid of Llama and she's still pretty good. Um, she doesn't she feels pretty good if you have sustain, if you have healing, basically. Um, Next up, we have let me talk about building her. I've already talked about building her. I've already talked about constellations. Now the final two things I want to talk about is the criticism surrounding her, which is related to sustain. She doesn't have a good sustain option right now. And llama dependence. At the end of the day, if you do not really care about Stygian, which at the end of the day doesn't really give you that big of a ward anyway, you can obviously get rid of llama and just play Nefer. Remember that she is going to be a little bit worse, but depending on what you play at, Nefer will be more than enough to clear content. And if you really like Nefer, her animations, her character, her personality, and you don't have Llama, but you are getting distracted, or like if you're getting
Don't trust your eyes
if you're
uncritically.
getting told by people that Nefer is absolute dog shit without Llama, then I will say I would disagree with that. If you don't have Llama and if you don't really care about the end game too much, then just get Nefer if you really like her. Just do it. There's no problems with that. But do remember that Llama is going to be an upgrade, a noticeable one, to all these people. If I'll also say like there's some dash cancel tech that I would
People
like
only
to
see
do.
what they want to.
Basically, Nefer is a character that can do good dash cancels. You basically cancel out her whole her charge attack animations. And you can do that pretty easily without consuming a lot of stamina. So how I would like to do it is basically um, I'll show you. So first we'll do E, then we'll
With
do
one
Llama
heart, we
QE,
pray.
then we'll do Aino EQ, then we'll do Cookie E, and then we'll press charge attack and press dash at the correct moment.
Can't hide the truth.
And then you put a burst in just so
For the
you can
everlasting quest.
fill in the downtime for your verdant dews,
Get with me.
and you will do the charge attack cancel again, like that. Now, I did do a little bit of a mistake where I canceled before I actually did the charge attack. Just do the charge attack and then immediately do the dash cancel. Not immediately, like maybe like a half a second later, do it. Then you'll be able to completely cancel out the charge attack animation for NEFER. Basically, the best way I would like for people to think about this is just press your charge attack mouse button. Just press your left key, just hold it, and just dash when you see NEFER starting the charge attack sequence. So let me show you that again. E, Llama Q, E, Aino E, Q, Cookie E. You do charge hold, dash, charge hold, charge hold, charge hold.
Mystery unravels.
Then you'll do back in the rotation,
Being done. Get with me.
It all adds up.
hold the charge button, and then do the dashes. That's all there is to her in terms of dashes. I'm gonna assume that people will figure more stuff out for her later on, and she'll have better combos later. All in all, Nefer is a really good character. She's a really strong character. With Llama, she's one of the best characters in the game. She has a very good amount of DPS. If you like her, if you like her animations, she's a really good character to get. Um, and she's a hyper carry of element that has not had a good hyper carry like Kinich. Kinich is a good hyper carry. I mean, Kinich is a good carry, but Kinich is not on the same level as Nefer. So just remember that. Um, in terms of other stuff, just enjoy playing her. If you don't want to do the dash cancels, don't do it. It's not that big of a deal. But if you want to maximize your damage for like Stygian or something, then thinking about doing dash cancel combo is not bad at all. But yeah, just remember, have fun. Just remember, yeah, have fun. Don't worry too much about like the best characters, the best slots or something. Just build the characters and build the team that you have access to and you want. Don't be pressured to pull and spend money for her or for her teammates or anyone. That's all there is for me. Have fun with your neffers, and bye bye, guys.